Join me now to discuss the president's amnesty call in Washington, D.C. Robert Rector, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Good to have you with us, Robert. And Ali Noorani, he is Executive Director of the National Immigration Forum. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
As Lisa Sylvester just reported, 13 million Americans right now are looking for work. Somewhere over 21 million people trying to find work or to improve from part-time to full-time work. How can we be supporting the levels, first of all, of legal immigration that we are, and secondly, permitting the level of illegal immigration into this country that we are? Ali, your thoughts?
Well, I think what the president is saying, and what he's frankly has said from day one of his campaign, is that he wants to grapple the problems that the country cares about, that America cares about. So the first thing he's been grappling with is the economy, now health care. And he's realizing, as the majority of America has realized, is that to fix the immigration system, we need to fix the economy, or I should say vice versa. To fix the economy, we need to fix the immigration system.
Whoa.
Yeah, please.
Work that by for me, will you?
Absolutely.
I mean, we got 21 million people desperate for a job.
Right.
What's that got to do with 12 million people who are here illegally?
That is an incredibly good question, because you are Lou Dobbs after all, right? As long as we have an unlevel playing field, as long as we have a playing field that allows a bad business owner, an unscrupulous employer to exploit an undocumented immigrant worker, you know who next loses there is the white worker, and then the African-American worker. And at the end of the day, as long as we don't have an immigration solution and we have an immigrant problem where people are exploited, American workers lose, good American business owners lose, and all of us lose as a result. So to fix the immigration system gets us so much further down the path of fixing the economy.
Robert Rector, your thoughts?
Absolute nonsense. The simplest thing to think about is that if we have 8 million illegal immigrant workers in the U.S., and with normal turnover, they will probably be hired into, say, 3 million new jobs over the next 12 months. If you actually enforce the law that says you can't hire illegal immigrants, all of those job openings would be available to American workers who are currently unemployed. The law has said for 20 years you cannot hire illegal immigrants. We have a de facto amnesty situation now because that law isn't enforced. If you did enforce it, it would open up many new job openings for American workers who are currently unemployed and need those jobs.
Well, if I may,
yes,
what we saw under the Bush administration is that billions and billions of our tax dollars were poured into enforcing this broken enforcement system. The fact is that that strategy failed abysmally. So if we want to talk about a solution that serves America and America's workers and America's business owners, then we have to legalize that population, make sure they have the wage and hour protections, that they can then go to the local convenience store, buy some sugar and some milk, go to the local diner, buy a breakfast. When we reach that point, when communities actually have a level labor market, then we have a solution, and then we have an economy that's completely turned around.
Legalizing these workers and granting them amnesty is a massive bailout for illegal immigration. It's a pillaging expedition on the American taxpayer. To grant amnesty even to 12 million illegals would generate over time $2.5 trillion in Social Security and Medicare costs. Once you grant them illegal status, they have the right to bring their grandparents into this country and put their parents onto welfare. That's another $500 billion there minimum. The cost is absolutely astronomical. Every time, you remember that about 60% of illegal immigrants are high school dropouts. Every time you bring someone like that into the United States and they form a family, the net cost to the U.S. taxpayer, benefits paid minus taxes paid in, is around $1 million negative loss.
That's an incredibly liberal, if you will, interpretation of the immigration system. The fact is, the Congressional Budget Office, not exactly a radical think tank, looked at the legalization program and said we would actually get $66 billion in additional tax revenue. That's $66 billion. To continue to enforce this immigration system over a number of years is over $150 billion. I'm no mathematician, but I would rather see a dollar into the till than billions of dollars going out of the till.
Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It's a Washington budget trick. Look, what you do in Washington to hide your cost is you say all the welfare costs will occur 10 years after the bill passes. CBO only analyzes the first 10 years. All the costs are backloaded. It's a way of deceiving the American public. How can it possibly not cost money to put illegal immigrants onto welfare?
The Heritage
May I ask a question?
Why not? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. The issue here is amnesty for illegal aliens. We did amnesty in 1986. We were assured precisely in tones similar to yours, Ali, that there would be no longer a problem once amnesty was granted. It was. The problem was exacerbated. And it seems a straightforward syllogism I've been talking about for some time, Ali, and I'd like both you and Robert Rector to tell me what your response is. I have said unequivocally, and you may defeat this with logic, and if you do, as I said, I will embrace the president's amnesty program. But I have said you cannot, under any circumstances, meaningfully reform or improve U.S. immigration policy and law if you can't control immigration. Do we agree so far?
We agree so far.
And one cannot control immigration unless we have control of our borders and our ports. That completes the syllogism. What am I missing?
So what happened in 1986? What happened in 1986? In fact, the sponsors of that original bill in 1986 have admitted to me that was not a good piece of legislation. Because what happened is that they granted amnesty, but they forgot to think about the day after, and they forgot to think about what is the future of immigration going to look like.
May I interrupt? They didn't forget. They promised, in point of fact, to secure the border. They lied through their teeth.
But the reason, what happened, Lou, is that because they did not create the opportunities and the system that could change with our labor market, that there was we did not have an immigration system that people could go through. So people had to go around an immigration system.
Whoa, stop, please. Please, I want to put up these numbers. And let me just, again, let me put up the number of naturalizations last year alone. Forget the H-1B visas, the 13 other categories of guest worker programs in this country, which brings in over 3 million people. But gentlemen, look at this, if you would. We have bringing in, this is the percentage by race of naturalizations: Latino, Asian, white, and African. We are bringing in right now, there's not a race issue here. There is not an issue of not being welcoming. We are bringing in literally 1,048,000 people naturalized last year. Along those lines, racial lines, and we're being accused by ethnocentric interest organizations of being a racist country, a xenophobic country, when we're bringing in more people than the rest of the world combined into this nation.
Well, the fact is, Lou, is that we are the best country in the world. And that is the reason why people want to come. And the fact is also that we may have naturalized so many people in the last year, but they actually immigrated they actually arrived in the country 5 or 10 years back. And 5 or 10 years back, remember that? The 1990s, when the economy was booming, when we were enjoying just incredible prosperity.
Are you negating what you're witnessing? That is, a nation that has brought in a recession and continues to bring in over 3 million people?
You're confusing. There's an issue of naturalization, which means that is when an immigrant is naturalized to become a citizen.
Well, thank you. Ali, you're helping me so much here, and I know that the audience is appreciative too. What is your point?
My point is that the people that were naturalized last year actually entered the country 5 or 10 years ago.
I don't think that you're going to be persuaded. Robert Rector, your thoughts here?
The fact of the matter is that we have record high levels of legal immigration, and the fact of the matter is that when we granted the last amnesty, we never enforced the law. In exchange for that amnesty, we promised the American citizenry that it would be illegal to hire illegal immigrants. That law for 20 years has never been enforced. There's a simple way to enforce it through a program called E-Verify, but E-Verify is not required to be used. It's very cheap, costs about $5 per employee, and overnight, if you employed that program on employers, you could reduce the amount of illegal immigrant employment in the U.S. roughly in half. We need to keep the deal that we made 20 years ago. It's never been enforced. That's why we have all this illegal immigration, because we have a de facto open border situation with Mexico. You can walk into this country, take a job, nothing is done about that. And then now
Robert,
we're going to grant them amnesty, access to welfare, access to Social
Robert,
Security.
we gotta
it will
go.
bankrupt the country.
That's
Robert, Rector,
just a terrible...
Ali Noorani,
Thank you.
Ali, I assume that you would support the use of E-Verify for employers all over the country, correct?
We would love to see a verification system that actually worked. E-Verify is not
Ali, it's
quite
a shame.
there.
I don't know why anybody want to come to this country. Our E-Verify system doesn't work. We're out of date with our figures. My goodness, we're xenophobic, we're racist, we're really bad here. Anyway, the word's getting out. I'm sure it'll all stop soon. Thanks, Ali Noorani. Thank you very much. Robert Rector, thank you very much.